Welcome to IAF's webinar on the Enhanced Replant Program, Stream 2, the Wine Grape Replant. My name is Derek, and I'm a project coordinator with IAF. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to acknowledge that IAF's office is in Victoria, the traditional territory of the Lekwungen peoples, represented today by the Esquimalt and Songhees nations. That IAF operates across traditional and unceded Indigenous territories throughout British Columbia. ERP is funded by the Government of British Columbia through the Ministry of Agriculture and Food and is delivered by IAF. I'm joined here today by Angela Boss and Lindsay Hainstock, representing the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. They will be assisting me during the question and answer period today. Angela, would you like to give a brief description about your role?
Sure. Thank you, Derek. Good morning, Angela Boss. I am the Director of Agricultural Development for the Ministry of Agriculture and Food within the Extension and Support Services branch, and happy to be participating in the webinar today.
Great, thank you. And Lindsay, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Lindsay Hainstock. I'm working with the ministry as the grape specialist for the province, working with the industry. So have been involved with helping to develop this program, working with the industries for that feedback.
Great. And so with that, we'll just begin here with a little overview of the presentation. We are going to cover an overview of the entire program, of the Enhanced Replant program, and then we'll move on to a more detailed overview of Stream 2, and then to apply to Stream 2. Like I mentioned, the presentation will be followed by Q&A, and you can put these questions into the Q&A function of Zoom at any time. So the Enhanced Replant program will provide support to help the wine, grape, berry, and tree fruit producers replace existing acreage with climate-resilient varieties that produce in-demand premium fruit. The program objective for the entire program is to increase the competitiveness and resiliency of the BC agri-food economy in domestic and global markets by providing direct funding support to producers looking to replace damaged, diseased, and low-producing vines, plants and trees with climate-resilient varieties that produce in-demand premium fruit. Funding for the ERP is available through 4 funding streams. Today's webinar will focus on Stream 2, the Wine Grape Replant. For further information about some of the other funding streams, you can visit our website and the respective web pages for each of these streams. So let's get into the details of Stream 2. Stream 2 is open to existing wine grape producers who are replacing existing acreage with new vineyards. It is important to note that replant activities cannot start until after a producer has received funding approval from IAF. Each farm operation can apply for a minimum of 1 continuous acre to a maximum of 20 acres or 15% of your total perennial food crop acreage, whichever is greater. The total funding available for each farm operation over the duration of the program is capped at a maximum of $500,000. Cost share ratio depends on whether the applicant has been paid a production insurance plant loss claim or has a plant loss claim in progress for each of the fields being replanted. All applicants are required to indicate if they have been paid a production insurance plant loss claim from January 1st, 2023 and onward, or if they have a plant loss claim in progress for the field or block being replanted. So just an important aspect here is that it's for the field or block being replanted. That is important. Cost share ratios for applicants will be adjusted based on business risk management program details at each planting and or renewal location. So we'll take a look at what this means in the next slide here. If you're applying to ERP and have not been paid a production insurance plant loss claim or don't have an active active production insurance plant loss claim, the following will apply to you. So starting with the commercial nursery. Under this program, a commercial nursery is defined as a professional business that sells finished plants to producers. Applicants will receive a 50% cost share or reimbursement for nursery plants and one-time plant royalty and or licensing fees. This means that the program will reimburse 50% of the plants and one-time royalty licensing fees at the completion of the project, and the applicant would cover the remaining 50%. And once we jump to home nurseries, a home nursery is defined as a nursery where producers can grow their own plants for their commercial orchards. In these nurseries, rootstock is purchased, planted, and grafted or budded to create finished trees over a 2 to 3 or so year period. Trees grown in home nurseries are not sold commercially, and growers are expected to pay all the applicable royalties on the plants that they produce. Applicants will receive 100% cost share or reimbursement for one-time plant royalty or licensing fees, rootstock, and scion sourced from home nurseries. All other costs, including maintenance fees or utility fees during the process of growing, are not eligible. So this means that the program will reimburse 100% of the rootstock, scion, and royalty or licensing fees at the completion of the project. Plants funded or grown through this program must be planted. The plants cannot be resold. And so in the next slide here, we're going to jump and look and see what it is for those who do have a production insurance or plant loss claim. So for those with a production insurance claim, this is from January 1st, 2023 and onwards. Or if you have a pending claim under consideration, the following will apply to you. Commercial nurseries. If you purchase from a commercial nursery, the cost shared ratio would be 25% for plants and one-time royalty licensing fees. This means that the program, or IAF, will reimburse 25% of the plants and one-time royalty licensing fees at the completion of your project, and the applicant will cover the remaining 75%. For home nurseries, if you use plants from a home nursery, the cost share ratio will also be 25% for rootstock, scion, and one-time royalty licensing fees. And so now we're going to jump over to the program-wide eligibility criteria. So applicants must meet the program-wide eligibility criteria and stream-specific eligibility criteria. Eligible applicants, to be considered eligible for this program, you must be the owner or leasee of the land, indicate if they have been paid a production insurance plant loss claim or have a plant loss claim in progress, demonstrate financial viability to complete and maintain a project, be in good standing with the councils identified by the corresponding industry association, maintain the property as a commercial operation for at least 4 years following the replanting. For ineligible applicants, there are those who are annual crop producers, forage producers, non-commercial producers, and farmland outside of BC. This is ineligible. Sectors that do not have an opportunity assessment completed and pre-approved by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Producers that do not meet the funding stream specific criteria, which we'll cover next. And applicants with an active perennial crop renewal program project. Once a PCRP project is complete, you can apply for ERP. And we can jump to the eligible activities. The first eligible activity is going to be the inclusion of plant costs, as I mentioned previously. This is eligible provided the planting takes place after the application is approved and plants have not been funded through other programs. So as mentioned a few slides ago, when we were talking about the cost shared ratios, funding will vary depending on the purchases that you're making. as well as whether or not you have a production insurance claim. Another eligible activity is planting multiple varieties of the same commodity in at least one continuous acre. So this excludes interplanting, which is the planting of young plants between existing plants in the row. Project requirements. The first one is that the replant site must be in British Columbia. Each field being replanted must cover a minimum of one continuous acre. The field must be a single uninterrupted block. Based on current projections, the replant site is commercially viable or will generate a positive return at full production. IAF will provide a form within the application that you can download and complete to confirm that this is something you meet. For each replanted site, applicants must be a licensed water user, be within an irrigation district, or have submitted a water use license application prior to applying. Irrigation systems must also be installed at planting. So wine grape growers on Vancouver Island are exempted from this requirement, but the remaining applicants must meet this. And we'll jump to ineligible activities now. Multiple planted areas that collectively equal 1 acre in size are ineligible. New plantings, including farm expansions and the establishment of crops on bare land or land previously utilized for non-perennial food crops, are not eligible. So in the cost of plants, maintenance fees are ineligible. Goods and services tax is ineligible. In-kind expenses, taxes and duties or shipping costs, other planting or removal costs included but not limited to the rental of equipment, purchase of posts, wire or labor, interplanting in an existing vineyard, so planting young plants between the existing plants in the row, ongoing annual royalty payments, so per acre, per linear foot, or per fruit sold, and ineligible commodity-specific criteria as outlined in the sector-specific planting or removal guidelines. So we'll look at the Stream 2 specific criteria now for everyone. Eligible applicants. So this is the applicant is in good standing with the BC Wine Grape Council. And again, this excludes the Vancouver Island wine grape growers. And all levies on fruit grown in the previous year have been paid. The applicant must justify their marketing strategy by selecting the wine style from the replanting guidelines and recommendations report that the new vineyard will achieve. A link to this report is available on the Stream 2 webpage in the resources section. If replanting the same variety, the applicant must justify how management practices are being adapted to ensure success. The applicant must also have a soil nutrient test from each of the field sites that are being replanted within the last 3 years. Moving to the variety eligibility, vines must be purchased from a nursery identified by the Canadian Grapevine Certification Network as certified for Canadian plant material and to a CFIA approved international standard. Domestic vines must be certified plus, certified or verified by CGCN and produced by a CGCN registered nursery. United States imported vines must be certified virus pathogen free by the state certification programs in California, Oregon, Washington, or New York, and free of any viruses or pathogens on the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's quarantine list. International imported vines, no other international certification programs are currently recognized by CGCN. However, France does have a program under review for 2025. So if you are importing vines from France, this will result in a temporary or conditional approval pending the outcome of this program review. Now, for some varieties, planting the varieties of Grenache or Mourvèdre is ineligible for cost sharing. Planting Gewürztraminer is not widely recommended and must not represent more than 20% of the applicant's total acreage. Applicants must provide a justification in the marketing and sales section of the business plan before being approved for replant funding. Planting Syrah is only eligible for funding on sites where extreme heat events are more of an issue than regular cold extreme events. This can be justified within your application and within your business plan. Planting densities. Standard planting density will be 1,300 to 2,200 plants per acre. If planting is outside of this range, verification from an accredited professional may be required from the applicant to verify the planting density and horticultural practices proposed by the producer. So we will take a look now after the requirements of the program is how to apply. Applicants can apply to ERP through the IAF client portal. Links to the portal are provided throughout IAF's website and listed on the slide here. To find the application, log into your account and select the Funding Opportunities tab from the gray sidebar, noted in yellow here. Once on this page, you can scroll down to find the application button for the Enhanced Replant Program. And once you have drafted and saved an application, it will appear under the Applications or Draft Applications section of the portal noted in blue. And so I will say that if you have not created an account in our portal yet, please do so as soon as possible. It will take 2 days to have your account verified, so best not to leave till the end. For the important dates or the timeline of this program, the draft applications opened up on October 29th, as many of you are probably aware. The application submission window will open up on November 26th at 9 a.m. So this is when that submit button will appear, and you will be able to submit the application until December 3rd, 2024. And this closes at 4 p.m. The project start date is upon approval from IAF, and the project end date will be a maximum of 24 months following the project start date. Now, this program is not based on a first come, first served model as previous programs through IAF are. This will be done through scoring criteria. So confirmed plant orders for all fields at the time of application will be used as a scoring criteria. If you are enrolled in production insurance, if you are enrolled in agri-stability, or if vertical integration that makes you ineligible for agri-stability. A current environmental farm plan, or if you are in the process of renewing or applying for one. If you are in the process of renewing or applying for one, this means that you have submitted the application for a EFP, not that you plan to do so in the future. A business plan that meets ministry requirements and was developed within the last 5 years. There is on our website links to how you create a business plan and a checklist that will be used during our review. Fields being replanted that will be cover cropped or left fallow for at least 12 months prior to planting. And sustainable wine growing BC member or have completed. So the program scoring criteria, these are not necessarily required at the time of application, but are strongly weighted in the determination of whether or not your application will be successful. And so we will jump here to the application review to approval process. And so in these next couple slides, we'll go over the project lifestyle, as well as what you can expect after approval. So upon your successful completion of the application by IAF staff, the 10% of the eligible applications will be selected for further audit and review. This audit will involve a secondary review of applications for eligibility and validation of technical information by an accredited professional. Additional information may be requested from the applicant before it can be considered for funding. For example, if you claim that you have a business plan, we will be requesting that business plan from you. As well as if you claim you're in of an environmental plan assessment, we request that confirmation from you. Field inspections will be conducted for a minimum of 25% of completed projects by a qualified professional. And so this will be an on-site visit with the producer at the completion of your project after your report has been filed. The final report will be due 2 weeks following the end date of the project, and project reports will be completed on the IAF client portal, very similar to the application that you will be submitting for this program. Now, if you are in the middle of your project with us, there is a process for any changes and some information about our contribution agreement that we're going to go over here. So upon approval, all applicants will sign a contribution agreement that outlines the funding amounts and funding conditions. Please ensure you read this document carefully. It is not very long, but it will give you all the information that you need to know regarding IAF's responsibility and commitment to you, as well as your responsibility and commitment to the funding. Project changes are only granted in extenuating circumstances, and these may include budget changes, so over or under spending, activity changes within the 24-month restriction, so as an example, project timing, a change in the project lead or designated officer change. If you are changing your primary contact with IAF, please let us know as soon as possible. This causes some occasion left unchanged. Reporting deadline extension. To complete your project, you are running into some time constraint report, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to work with you to make this work and ensure that you can complete the required documents in the timeline. So thank you, everyone. That will wrap up the presentation portion of the webinar. We will be moving on to the Q&A section here. As a reminder, please use the Q&A function through Zoom to submit your questions. My teammates will be sending me the questions so that I can read them aloud and answer. If we are unable to answer or reach your question within the time limit, we will do our best to follow up by email, and we will update the Q&A on the program's website. If you have a specific question that you would like to discuss with the IAF team, you can reach out to us at the email on the screen here, erp@iafbc.ca, or you can use the link here under book a consult call with IAF once you've started drafting your application. And I see there are quite a few questions that have been put into the box already. So let me start going through here. Okay. Can I apply to more than one funding stream? So each year you are allowed to apply to one funding stream per farm operation or business. So only one application per fiscal year. However, in the following year, you will be able to apply to a secondary stream. Okay, and is it mandatory that I have my field cover cropped or left fallow for at least 12 months prior to planting? It is not mandatory to cover crop or leave your field fallow prior to replanting. However, it is encouraged, and this will be used as one of our scoring criterion for all applicants. Okay. And how do I know if my business plan meets ministry requirements? So as I mentioned, there is a set template, but there is a checklist and guidelines to draft a business plan, and that is linked on our website. Please go through it and enter in all the applicable information, including your justification for the varieties chosen. So this will be used as a scoring criteria. And if your application is audited, we will request a business plan from you. Can I plant multiple varieties of wine grapes in 1 acre? Yes, so you can plant multiple varieties of the same fruit, in this case, wine grapes, in 1 acre if the planting meets the minimum of 1 continuous acre. Okay. If a vineyard has been replaced this year, we cannot apply for funding. If you've removed plants but have not replanted, you should still be eligible. But if you have already replanted, then you will be eligible to apply for funding through this program, unfortunately. I'll use this question as well, actually, just to mention that if you have already incurred costs with the purchasing or ordering of wine grape plants, you can use those costs in your application retroactively as long as those costs are from January 1st, 2022 and onwards. So if you have already incurred costs from ordering but have not replanted, those costs are eligible. Okay. We have some more coming through. So the program also mentions that we have 24 months to complete the project. What does complete mean? Is it just the planting activities that have to be completed? So all activities that you have indicated you would be doing, so planting or putting your irrigation system in, would need to be completed within those 24 months. So it is a requirement of the program that you have an irrigation system planted at the time of replanting, or sorry, you have an irrigation system installed at the time of replanting. So that process would also need to be completed. So it is a full cost incurred and planting completed. And once your project is completed, you'll then have an additional 2 weeks to complete the report. And again, if we run into any time constraints with that reporting process, please let us know and we're happy to work with you. What is the funding percentage if we use a third-party home nursery using another nursery that will grow vines on soil I provide? Is this 50% or 100% funded, given I do not have production insurance? Okay. Oh, where did it go? Sorry, I just had another question come in that booted my, there we go. Lindsay, would you like to respond to that one? Regarding the third party, about a third party home nursery. So if they're using, this sounds like a producer to producer sale, which if I understand, it would still need to be CGCN certified.
Correct. Yes. So we were discussing this one because of that virus certification requirement. If they were ordering stock themselves that they're going to use on to do their own home nursery, whatever stock, so if they're ordering a root stock or they're doing a scion, that would all need to be certified and come from a certified nursery. I don't think we would allow a third-party nursery to grow out those vines for you if they are not certified themselves, because there is a risk of cross-contamination with something like that. the part of the certification with the viruses is that the nurseries actually follow certain protocols to ensure that they keep the vines clean and virus-free. Does that help
Great,
answer?
okay. Yes, absolutely. So basically, likely not, just due to certification requirements. And if it does come up, we can always look at this as a case by case, refer to the ministry at that time if that works. Perfect. Is the business plan to be submitted during the application initially? So while the business plan is listed as an optional document, we strongly recommend uploading business plans because it is required if selected for an audit. And in the case of Stream 2, the justification and reasoning behind your selection of varieties is likely to be included in your business plan here. So although, yes, it is optional, it is significant to determining your priority ranking and could possibly be requested from you in the future if selected for an audit. Could you please clarify replant activities? What can and can't be done before approval of our application? So if any aspect of your project of the replant, so having the plant going into the ground, is ongoing currently or has been completed, that will be considered ineligible. If, as an example, you are replanting a existing vineyard and you have removed the vines that are there, but have not actually started the replanting process, that is okay. So removal prior to approval is fine. That is why we also allow for or suggest the 12 months of cover cropping or being left fallow. Just can't start the actual putting the plants into the ground. Those are some pretty good questions. I also will say that if you do want to book a consult call, you get a guaranteed time slot. So there's no having to phone in to us. There is also a dedicated project coordinator, likely myself, who will be speaking to you one-on-one about your application. So this is a great program with the consult calls. We have pretty good success with it in previous programs, so we're happy to keep this going for everybody. What about the Fraser Valley region? Do we need irrigation set up? Yes, if you are in the Fraser Valley, irrigation is still required. It is only for those on Vancouver Island that are exempted from this irrigation requirement. Okay, and I see quite a few questions still coming in. So for a block that has had vines removed and is left fallow for 12 months, is it okay if existing posts and wires have been left in place? I would expect this to be okay. Although the program doesn't technically cover the cost of posts or planting materials other than the plants themselves or plant parts. Lindsay or Angela, would you agree that is, leaving the posts and wires in are totally fine?
Yep.
Yes, I'm getting a nod there. Great, thank you.
It never makes it easy for a replant to work around them, but we understand it. Yeah, if they're still in perfect condition and there's still good integrity to those posts, that they're not going to collapse before the vines do, then it's allowed.
Fantastic. Are all funding streams under ERP awarded on the scoring criteria and not just first come, first serve, or just Stream 2? So each of these streams in ERP are based on scoring or prioritization. And so this prioritization will be done by IAF based on a set parameter for everybody in that stream. So everybody in Stream 2 will be based and prioritized on the same criteria. However, the criteria can change based on stream to stream. So as an example, your prioritization criteria in a blueberry removal project will be different than this, but still prioritized. How is IAF assessing or approving the eligibility of vines? So there is a report that has gone out, the replanting guidelines, that is linked on our website, that speaks to the preferred or not recommended varieties. But maybe we can hand this one over to Lindsay or Angela if you want to go over how the vines were determined or approved on eligibility, just for some further information about that. I believe it was a Terrier report.
So the terroir consulting report, this is referring to the grape or the wine guidelines?
Yes, and then the variety eligibility and such.
Right. So, sorry, I was trying to keep up with the questions on here, which ones you're at. So that was a contract with Terroir Consulting. Part of this, of course, replant program is there's always that marketing component of it and market analysis, opportunity assessments. So it is looking at that long-term forecast of what are the varieties or wine styles that would be that have the most promise long-term for viability as well in the marketplace. And so there is hundreds of wine varieties out there to choose from. And so to try and make this more palatable, I guess, they narrowed it down to wine styles. And within that, what was kind of the top wine styles that they could see a lot of trends looking positive in terms of with consumers and markets going forward with that opportunity assessment. And so based on that, the idea of this is there isn't specific varieties. Like in the report, if you read it, yes, they give some suggested varieties with these wine styles, but we couldn't possibly put all those varieties into the program. And so the idea is just that we want to see that people are thinking long-term in terms of why they are planting the variety they are in the vineyard, that it wasn't just the variety that happened to be available from the nursery and they needed to plant something. It's why are you planting it? What is the long-term game plan for that? Like I said, marketing component of it. So part of your business plan, why does that variety make sense to what you're planting and what are you going to be doing with it? In terms of why there's some varieties, I think there were some questions on here, why there's some varieties that aren't allowed or limited within the replant program. Again, it comes down to that opportunity assessment done by Terroir Consulting. And so there was certain varieties either for purposes of markets or there is the climatic purposes too, that there was the industry survey done, put out by the BC Wine Grape Council that also gave us really good feedback in terms of there were certain varieties that producers themselves felt should not be funded by the program because they just did not stand up. And not even just this past winter event, because there was a lot of things that didn't stand up this last winter event, but just long-term, they just seem to be more weak and less winter hardy when compared to all the other choices out there, and not one that should be encouraged to see taxpayer dollars cover a replant of. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate that. And I guess this also speaks to the importance of that business plan being completed by everybody here applying.
Yeah, so I guess just keeping in mind, the intention of the enhanced replant program is to increase the competitiveness and the resiliency of the BC agri-food economy. So that's the intent when you're looking at some of these choices of why maybe there's some limitations or why we want to know what the long-term plan is with that planting. That is the rationale for it.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one here. So while submitting the ERP application, what are the specific documents required to be uploaded? So there are two categories here in the initial application. There's going to be your optional or required. And while we suggest everyone upload all of the documents, because that will decrease your potential work in the future, should you be selected for that 10% audit. The required documents that we're going to request, one is the contribution margin template. that is a document that is uploaded within your application. It should be a blue text line, and you can click that, download it. Please complete that and upload for your application. That's mandatory. As well, I have here listed a BC assessment. I actually don't believe that BC assessment is required straight off the bat, but I will double check with that. A confirmed plant order can technically be provided within 60 days of the initial process of review. However, again, this is very important to have right away so that we can go forward with this. Optional for uploads is going to be your soil sample results, the business plan, your water license, and your pollinizer plan. Each of these are going to be requested during the audit process. So can you apply for a planting date in May 2026? So you will have 24 months from the time of approval to complete your project. So if you're going to be replanting in 2026, which would be within 24 months, then yes, you can. That 24 months, again, is the longest that it can take. If you think that it will be cutting it close, there is a strong likelihood of future intakes again, but we're looking at 24-month timeline. And so for the remaining questions, which I see there are many, I will be going through these and sending out responses over the next likely day or two. And so please, if we didn't get to your question, just know that we will still respond to you with the email that you provided. If you did not provide an email, maybe please enter that question again with your email so that we can get back to you. If there's some recurring questions, we will also update our frequently asked questions section so that with your question, you're also helping others. So we do appreciate your participation in this webinar. So thank you very much for coming and dealing with the slight technical issue with my camera. But if you would like to see what I look like, you can look at the previous webinar and you can put a face to the name, or you can book a consult call with us. So have a great day, everybody.